What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the show. Welcome back to another episode of Seahawks Now, your home for all things daily Seattle Seahawks news, updates, and rumors. Today, we have more updates on Trey Hendrickson, which the saga just seems to be continuing here, as Daniel Jeremiah openly asking for the Seahawks to pursue him in a trade. Plus, another possibility is that the Seahawks could go out and get Brandon Sherf. He would really kind of complete the offensive line. We talk about that. And we have some potential bad news. We discuss what exactly that means. And if I actually think the Seahawks could be in trouble, let's get into it though. Yeah, not a whole lot more to say than that. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more content, and let's get into the video. So Trey Hendrickson, as we all know, he is the Bengals' disgruntled superstar. I continue to say disgruntled because from everything that we have heard, things are not looking great for him and Cincinnati. He's asking for more money than they're willing to pay. He's also asking for more years than they're willing to pay. Now, a couple of days ago, we found out that they have reopened negotiations for a contract extension, but it's not going anywhere. So while they are talking again, they're nowhere closer than they were before. And he is still holding out. He's still holding out for minicamp. He is not planning to attend their training camp in July. And it does sound like things are not great with that relationship. Obviously, I get it. If I'm Trey Hendrickson, I want to get paid too. You know, if I'm 31 years old, coming off the best year of my career, yeah, I want to get paid. A, because I've earned it, but B, because, yeah, maybe he is entering kind of the second half of his career, and he wants to secure that bag right now before it gets to a point where it's too late. If Trey Hendrickson, he doesn't want it to be too late. He wants to secure the bag, and yes, he wants to win. But he also wants to be paid, and he can get both if he comes to Seattle. So here's what Daniel Jeremiah writes. Daniel Jeremiah is an NFL analyst who went on 710 ESPN Seattle yesterday morning, and he said that the Seahawks should 100% pursue him. The Seattle Seahawks already have a talented defense, but they could add a superstar to push the unit over the top. With Bengals star defensive end Trey Hendrickson's contract situation still unresolved, Mike Salk and Daniel Jeremiah, they revisited the idea of trading for him. In particular, they asked Daniel Jeremiah if he'd be willing to trade a second-round draft pick and a fifth-round draft pick for the 30-year-old Hendrickson. Here's what he says, quote, "I know you've got to pay him a bunch of money, but heck yeah, man. Of course, yeah, I know, yeah. Again, I'm totally in agreement. Quote, I'd be in the business of trying to collect great players. The Seahawks have a fast defense. They've got a very talented defense. But man, you throw in a guy like that who's going to get off the bus and get you 12 to 15 sacks because he's such a good, natural, instinctive pass rusher, and you're in a division where you got to go hunt Matthew Stafford? Yeah, 100%. I would try and be in on that." And then he says, quote, "I think he would be that guy." There you have it. I think they would be that guy. He admits that the Seahawks do have a good defense. He says they're fast, they're athletic, but when you bring in another pass rusher, a pass rusher who is pretty much good for an automatic 10 sacks a year, I mean, that's huge. It would do wonders, I think, for the defense to bring him in. I think it would actually make everybody on the defense better. I think Uchenna Nwosu gets better by having a guy like Trey Hendrickson there in the room with him. I think that Boye Mafe gets better by having him in the room with him. I think that DeMarcus Lawrence gets better by having Hendrickson there. I think Derek Hall, your second-year player out of Notre Dame, I think he gets better having a guy like Trey Hendrickson in the room. I think everybody on this defense improves. You know what I mean? And when you add in a guy who's an automatic 10 sacks, I think that makes the defense from great to elite. Brock Heward ended up asking him, how long can he sustain his level of play? Can he do it for 2 or 3 more years? And Daniel Jeremiah says he thinks so. He says, quote, "If you're a speed-dependent rusher, I think there's a tendency that you can kind of fall off of a cliff. When that's kind of your main bag and that goes away, you're kind of not left with a whole lot. But this dude is a technician. He's not even just a power-based rusher or a speed rusher. He does everything well, but he just has an instinct and a feel and a knack. And those guys, I think that prolongs their run a little bit, provided he stays healthy. He just knows how to rush. Of course, health would matter in this equation. And yes, you do have to pay him. And so you do have to wonder, would we be wasting our money? Reportedly, Trey Hendrickson is looking for something in the realm of $34 or $35 million a season. But the fact of the matter is that is market value. And if you're the Seahawks, unless you can draft a guy like this, and they haven't been able to do that in a very, very long time, so then you do have to pay the market value, right? If you want a guy like Myles Garrett or Chris Jones or Micah Parsons, you have to pay the market value. And Trey Hendrickson, he is that good. He's that level of player, and it's not unfair that he wants to be paid the market value. I get it. I would want to be paid like that too. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I do think the Seahawks should go out and make it happen. I agree with Daniel Jeremiah 100%. I want to see them pursue Trey Hendrickson. If he is on the trade block, I want him traded to Seattle. But there's another player who is also being rumored to come to Seattle. According to Heavy.com, the Seahawks are being pushed to land former $49 million five-time Pro Bowler in their final move. Writing for them is Jonathan Adams. He says the Seahawks have made a significant shift at several positions. There's still time to make a few late additions. Bleacher Report's Christopher Knox created a final to-do list for every NFL team. Seattle fans might be tired of hearing this, but the analyst once again suggested a late addition to the offensive line. One option is to sign five-time Pro Bowl guard Brandon Sherf. This is what Knox writes. He says, quote, Seattle's interior offensive line was arguably the worst in the NFL last season. This is why he wants them to add to it, especially after they've lost center Connor Williams. Of course, they did draft Gray Zabel at left guard. That will help. The free agent market isn't loaded with starting caliber talent. Seattle could consider bringing in players like Brandon Scherf and center Nick Harris for additional camp competition. Yeah, so Scherf obviously was a former really, really good player. He was a Pro Bowler, five-time Pro Bowler with the Washington Commanders. Last year, he was in year 3 with the Jaguars and definitely did not have that great of a season. I mean, he was fine. He had a 64.7 grade. He was dinged for his run game protection. He actually had a solid pass protection score of 74.5, but his run score was 57.3, so not the greatest. Last time he signed a contract, it was a $49.5 million deal with the Jaguars. This time, it's probably going to look much cheaper than that. It's probably going to be like a $7 million contract. Sportrack is estimating that he would sign a 1-year, $6.6 million deal. And I actually think that could make some sense for the Seahawks. I'm just not so sure how much we need Brandon Scherf in the kind of twilight of his career. I get that he was good. I get that he definitely could help. But he is definitely in the twilight of his career. If you look at the approximate value score, he was definitely best when he was younger. He had an approximate value of 12 back in 2016, and then 9 back in 2017, and then 11 in 2020. Since then, he's kind of fallen off a little bit. Last year, he started all 17 games for the Jaguars, and he had an approximate value of 6, which makes him just about a replacement level guard. He's essentially maybe even a little bit below replacement level guard. So yeah, you could probably get him for cheap, and I'm sure he would help. But at the same time, yeah, he's in the twilight of his career. He's going to be 34 years old next year. I will say, I like that he stays on the field, right? Throughout his career, he averages, he's played 140 games in 10 seasons, so he's averaging 14 games a season, and he hasn't missed a start since 2021 with the Commanders, a year that he was still a Pro Bowler, even though he only started 11 games that year. So he's healthy, he stays in the field, and even when he's maybe a little bit banged up, he still plays well. That is very encouraging, and that's maybe one of the reasons why I would be behind signing Brandon Scherf. But honestly, let me know what you guys think about this down in the comments below. I'm not sold on Brandon Scherf, but I also think, yeah, he could be a solid player. All right, let's move on to the last bit of news that I want to discuss. The Seahawks. Is this bad news? Aaron Donald predicting bad news for the Seahawks in 2025. What do I mean by this? Well, Aaron Donald recently went on a podcast with Brian Jones of On3 Sports, and he predicted that the Rams are going to win the NFC West. He says he thinks the Rams will have a better season than they did last year. He says the offense in LA is going to be stacked with a lot of veterans, but he says the defense in LA is going to be even better. He says last year they had a young defense. Now they're coming back for year two, and they have the experience that they're going to be much better playing with each other. So, yeah, that's unfortunate news for the Seahawks because obviously that is our division rival. The Seahawks are 0-5 since 2021 against Matthew Stafford when Stafford is with the Rams. They have actually never beaten him. Yeah, they've never beaten Matthew Stafford in Los Angeles. They have beaten the Rams when Stafford is hurt, but they've not had much success against the duo of Stafford and McVay. But the good news is they've only had to play Stafford 5 times in the past 4 years. The other 3 times they've played the Rams, Stafford has been hurt. So that has definitely helped. Or last year when Stafford just was on the bench, he didn't play in Week 18 because they'd already punched their ticket to the playoffs. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not sure how bad of news this is. Aaron Donald, of course, he's going to say he thinks the Rams are going to be good because he's a Rams guy. He was on the Rams for 10 years. He supports the team. He's still a big part of that community. So I'm not terribly upset that he would say something like this. But at the same time, I mean, it is not great to hear that our rivals are probably going to get better. And he makes some good points. I mean, they just had Jared Verse, who won Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's coming now into year two. They do have a really talented roster. I'll give the Rams some credit. They have a really talented roster, and they did win the division last year. So at this point, as much as we'd love to hate on the 49ers, I do think the Rams are the Seattle Seahawks' biggest rivals right now. And I think it will be a close division. Personally, I like to think the Seahawks are going to be able to overcome LA. I think the Seahawks can win in 10 or 11 games. And I think that's enough to make the playoffs. But it is tough to hear that, yeah, the Rams, they're going to be in this battle again. This is not going to be an easy division. They're going to be right there. And they're always going to be right there. As long as they have Sean McVay, I think the Rams are going to be a competitive team, and Aaron Donald seems to agree. Well, guys, with that all being said, thank you so much for watching, and as always, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. I want to hear what your thoughts are on signing Brandon Sherf. Do you think that would be a good move, or would it be maybe a waste of time and money to bring in the former Pro Bowler, now more of a veteran, looking for a reclamation project? We'll see you guys tomorrow, and as always, until next time, go Seahawks.